I think today, obviously, it's even more important in this day, AI just sort of taking over our lives. I find workshops are becoming an even more special experience for people because we're spending even more time on our computers and we're doing a lot less of that kind of like work together. I'm talking to a lot of companies right now who are definitely gathering in a room, having a meeting. Maybe they're doing like a brainstorm and they come up with ideas and then it's like, oh, someone take those and like AI-ify them, right? Like put them in AI and like make AI create.
Sometimes you won't have the answers yourself. So
Yeah.
I find like also this break is like, okay, maybe I will check with the decider.
Yeah.
What do you think we should do? Because sometimes you're lacking context, more information about the topic to be able to take that judgment. And I think this is where like facilitator in general would use the parking lot technique.
Yeah, totally. Everybody's trying to find these shortcuts and a lot of stuff is getting lost.
How can you create a great experience?
In order to build a great experience, we need to stop thinking about what we want people to do. What is this activity? Stop thinking about that and focusing more on how we want people to feel at different stages of the workshop.
Welcome to another day, another workshop. Today I'm welcoming Brittni Bowering, a world-class facilitator. She has worked with amazing brands like Lego, Google, and Microsoft. She's known for bringing her authentic self and plenty of fun into every room she walks into. She's not only facilitating workshops for her clients, she's also helping other facilitators create the same magic. And today she will share her secrets to designing amazing workshop experience so that you can do the same and transform any session into a memorable moment. Without further ado, let's welcome Brittni.
Hi, Mehdi. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I haven't been on a stage in a while, Mehdi. I think that's where I was coming from.
Yeah. I think like you were waiting for the applause and then the nice music.
Without
and like
further ado, it was like such a nice intro. Oh, that was really great.
So what
Anyways,
is
it
going
got
to
me
be your
pumped.
first joke, Brittni, now? Like, what is the joke that you're going to use to make sure that people are going to listen to you?
What's my opener? I've got no jokes, but I've got a lot of personality. How's that? Is that okay?
Sounds great.
And energy.
So, Brittni, I'm really happy to have you on the podcast. Each time, like I'm thinking about you, the two first words that comes to mind is workshop experience. I think I've learned a lot from watching the tips that you put out there when it comes to those things. So the first question, and we go right away into the topic, is like, why workshop experience is so important today, even more than before?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm really honestly, first of all, quite flattered that you think of workshopping, like that's what comes to mind when you think of me, because it is something that I care a lot about. And obviously I talk a lot about it because of that. I think today, obviously, it's even more important in this day of, AI just sort of taking over our lives and taking over a lot of our work as well. I find workshops are becoming an even more special experience for people because we're spending even more time on our computers and we're doing a lot less of that kind of like work together. And we're relying a lot more on, computers and AI and all of these sort of very unhuman things. And I think that's a big reason why it matters so much today is a couple of things. First of all, like we are craving human connection and human experience more than ever before, for sure. At least I personally am. And then the other thing is that we really like experience, like the workshop experience or just an experience in general makes people feel something, right? There's like an emotion that comes out of it. And I think that is what makes a workshop really powerful is when people are actually feeling something, right? And they're not just sort of like there going through the motions, but they're present, they're engaged, and, they're actually having human emotions. I think that's where the great work comes from. I think that's where we actually feel like we're part of something and we feel that kind of like momentum and excitement around a challenge or around a project. And that's where, at least where I want my workshops to be. So that's why it matters so much to me and especially today.
Yeah, I love the answer, and like it, like already my brain is like, oh, she opened so many doors. Which one am I am I going to
Good.
take? But
Nice.
like what you said, maybe with the AI, I think what's happening is that the companies, they have less opportunities to gather now,
Yeah.
and so when they
Yep.
do, I think even them, they're expecting that this is going to be different because they need to again create a better connections with their employees, which is really hard to build today.
Totally.
So there is a lot of expectations. So even if they're not saying it, I think they are expecting you to make this like really engaging and like transformative for the people.
Yeah, like, it's sort of like, it better be worth it, you know? Because I think, like what you said, I'm talking to a lot of companies right now who are definitely they are sort of, like, gathering in a room, having a meeting, maybe they're doing, like, a brainstorm, and they come up with ideas, and then it's like, "Oh, someone take those and, like, AI-ify them," right? Like, put them in AI and, like, make AI create so you know what I mean? It's very everybody's trying to find these shortcuts and a lot of stuff is getting lost, I think. And a lot of obviously that like the human part of the like solution is just lost in all the AI rumble. I mean, yeah, and it's a bit sad. I think this is a natural sort of part of the process of us figuring out where AI fits and where it doesn't. You know, I think we're it's always how it is, right? Like some new thing comes in and then it's like you try to do everything with it and you just sort of like go a little bit crazy. And then it's like we're like, oh, right. We need to like dial it back. We can't just like replace, a human being with AI for everything, you know? At least fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Let's hope.
And you have this big FOMO, like, oh, if we don't use it here in the workshop, it's not the best idea that we will get. But
Totally.
when it comes to that, I never changed my mind since the beginning. Like when I was a consultant, we were paid a lot of money to give advice to people, and I was super frustrated because most of the time they were not following what they were paying us to give them. And
Yeah.
this is how I found love with facilitation. Is like, oh, when people work on this on the stuff, they have ownership and there is momentum and they're willing to do the action.
100%. Yes.
So this is why I don't want AI to be there in my session, at least not in the creativity part, even
Yeah.
if the ideas could be better,
Yeah.
because then again, it's going to be difficult and more hard to implement.
Interesting. Okay. I love that. So you aren't using AI in your workshops at the moment.
The only part where, because they need to, they at some point they need to ask ChatGPT or Cloud, because now it's cooler to ask Cloud. Like they
Yeah.
need to. So what I would do is like it depends of the session, but
Yeah.
I would use it for lightning demos, for example, like
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a smart search to find the
Yes.
right inspiration before going to creativity.
Mhm.
But usually I won't. And it also brings this distraction. Like now they are more focused on the tech. So they are going away from more the content and the
Yep.
connection with the topic.
Yep.
So at least this is my opinion, but I know like there are some people that only swear by it, or they say
Yeah.
like, okay, first you start with human creativity, then you bring a layer of AI, then you need to
Yeah.
bring another layer of human.
Yeah.
I'm not going there,
Yeah, I
at
love
least for now.
that. Stick to your guns, Mehdi, you know? I think sometimes it's sort of like I mean, some clients force it is maybe too much, but they're very excited about bringing AI into workshops, some of my clients. So I am trying to incorporate it in the most human way possible because it really does. One thing that I've found, and I always warn clients about it, I'm like, one thing that we have to do when we bring AI into a workshop is we have to be very careful and very strict about like how we're using it, how long we're using it for, because as you know, if you've ever gone down any AI rabbit holes, like you can go into this like scenario where
Right.
all of a sudden you're like, what? Like, where am I? And what am I doing? And what is AI even talking about anymore? You know, it's like you can really get off out of scope or off base like really really quickly. So I'm always like we need to like like time is really important, like what the actual specific task is. And so I'm not like fully against AI in workshops, but like would love an AI free workshop. You know what I mean? Like that would probably be my preference as well. So I applaud you.
That's okay. And again, I guess because your client are those top those great companies and at top of the edge when it comes to technology.
Yeah, they
Maybe there
wanna
is more, attraction or use of being used to using them. Anyway, like, of course, we talked about AI. That was not
I
planned.
know. Wasn't even
This
in
is
a
good.
part of it at all, but of course, yeah.
This is good for retention. Like, people now are still hooked. Oh, this is even more interesting than we assumed that it would be.
Yeah.
So if we come back to, because what I think is interesting, like you said, oh, we have the brainstorm and people are going to do it. I also feel like, no, there are more and more sessions taking place in those companies, but they are done like without this experience mindset, but more like, oh, I have this agenda, I'm just going to follow my agenda. And sometimes there is like brainstorm activity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Us as professional, I think we also have this need to differentiate yourself and to show where is the value of bringing someone external. And sometimes I feel like that experience is also the secret touch that we can bring. What
Yes.
is your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I think, like, when I think about, because a lot of my clients also are very much, like, they're pro workshop, right? So they have
Mm,
a lot of facilitators within the company, within the organization. So they'll bring me in for very specific situations where it's like, we need this is actually like a really important one. We need to get people excited. We need to like motivate and like kind of like get them moving in the right direction. And internal, people internally, not that they can't provide that same experience. They can provide some, something in that direction for sure. But the problem is when you bring when someone is internal, they know the people, they know the processes,
mm.
they know the difficulties, they know the context. They like almost know too much. And the participants also probably just know too much about the facilitator. You know what I mean? You come in as like the guest star facilitator. You come in immediately before you've even started. This is a special thing. It's a special experience. We have a facilitator coming in to facilitate this for us. Immediately, like there's just several jumps up. It's closer to an event, right? And so I think that the thing is like that is often overlooked until you experience the workshop from an external facilitator who knows what they're doing. Then people always like, it's so funny, my clients who have done both, they're always like, oh, we didn't have the budget, to bring somebody else in, so we had to, but gosh, I would have loved that because it's a completely different, it's just a completely different thing, like it really, coming in from the outside, you are coming in with, you have your plan, you know what the goals are. Hopefully you're aligned on what your challenge is and where you're hoping to, bring the team over the however many days or whatever your session might be. So your full focus is, how am I going to do this and how am I going to do it in a way where people are like excited and they're going through like highs and lows and like all these cool things happening. And they're going to leave that workshop being like, that was so cool. Like, what an awesome week. What an awesome 2 days. Like, totally worth my time. Can't wait to do that again. That's like always sort of my mindset when I'm creating something. Like, I want people to leave being like, that was 100% worth my time. And I want to do something like that again. Like, I want to work more like that. Um, and that's where the experience component comes in for sure.
And
There
this
was
is great
something
for
else I
two
wanted to
things.
say, but I
Like,
can't.
like,
Yeah. Sorry.
and
Start
this is
again.
no problem. I said like this is great for two things. First, like because they enjoyed so much the first experience, they they want like they are dreaming for another opportunity to bring Brittany again. So
Yeah.
this is great for like in terms of
Right.
business development. And the
Yeah.
second one that even is more important for them is that this excitement is going to make it easier for them to do the work that is required to do after the session. Because as we
Totally.
know, this is where the hard stuff are going to happen. Going back to your mailbox, to your responsibilities, but it's easier to go if you have like a full tank of energy and like a clarity on what needs to happen, which is
Yes.
usually provided by experts like you.
Or you, Mandy.
Apparently.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is cool. Like, there's something that I say, like, one of the reasons that I love doing what we do is you go in you to this company, right, for the week or whatever, you kind of like make a bit of a splash. You can be this like version of yourself that's like you can be this like kind of this sort of like I don't know if this is the right word, but like hyper realistic version of yourself for that week. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like that's not how I am all the time because I'd be exhausted, like, because that's just not feasible. But for the week, I can be this like super high energy person. I can have like, I can have all the answers to all the questions, not always, but you know what I mean? Like, I can like be the guide and like really motivate people. And I can be this sort of like not actual real human, and then I leave and people are like, wow, that was awesome, like that was so fun. How does she keep that energy going for it's because I crash for like 4 days afterwards, and I can't keep that going for longer than like 4 to 5 days is like my absolute max, but I kind of love that, I love the go in, wow everybody, and then vanish and like be in bed for a while. That's my whole I just like that kind of work. I like the high of it, and then I like do I like the low? I like that there's levels, and it's not
Yeah.
like if I were in-house, and I've thought about this because I've always said to like my big corporate clients, I'm like, why don't we build a facilitator SWAT team? And that's literally all they do. And they just design and facilitate workshops, and they go around to all the businesses and all the teams. And they're like, your person, But when I really think about that, God, it would be an exhausting job, because that for us, we can be like, okay, this is my max amount of workshop time that I have energy for, right? And that's different for everybody. And depending on what's going on in your life, probably as well. But if you were in house, right, you'd have to be doing workshops like every week or every 2 weeks. And that's just crazy. Nobody can do that. So I'm like, maybe that wouldn't work. But anyway,
I don't know if nobody can do that. I think nobody can do that in the way you put energy and to put so much focus. And this is why it
yeah,
becomes less special because, as you said, like we have many of my clients have facilitators, and sometimes the question from my clients is like, how can I justify bringing you in, knowing that I have this army of like
yeah,
they call this like agile coaches. I heard like I hate
right.
it when they say like, "Are you an agile coach?"
Yeah,
Like something different. But anyway, like they
yeah,
have those guys, but I think also the reality of their facilitation is different. They don't have the full
totally.
days. We only bring them for 1 hour, and sometimes an offsite because there is a lack of budget. Let's bring the internal guys.
Yeah,
But this is why they cannot be the special candy with the full energy, and because it's, as you said, it's not possible.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
And when you were talking, I could still like remember, like because like when you're done with your workshop, you have this adrenaline boost, like super happy of the work you've done.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
then, but then you're dead.
Down.
So I also love this feeling. But just at the end, after I hate it,
Yeah.
driving back home is like,
You're like, "Oh my god, I'm falling asleep." Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so intense, and it's so funny too because people always like if they've never run workshops or never run like a session like that before, and I like talk to them after their first one, like just someone that I met recently, she just ran like she was just like, "Oh, I'll just like run a workshop," right? And she kind of just I kind of love this because I think this is sort of a mindset that you sort of have to have sometimes when you jump into something you don't know. Like she kind of like she prepared, but she was not fully prepared. You know what I mean? Like she
yeah,
didn't know a lot about workshops or facilitation. She
I
just
will
was kind of
figure it
like,
out.
okay, like I'll just kind of do this. Okay. And she afterwards she was like, "Oh my God, Brittany, I have like so much respect for what you do now because that was so exhausting." And she's like, and obviously extra exhausting probably because she was in out of her element a little bit. But yeah, it's like people underestimate how exhausting this kind of work is. Also, I mean, for me, it's so fun as well. So it's, you know what I mean? There's pros and cons and stuff, but you definitely need to, if you're going to be facilitating workshops, you need to find a balance and everybody is different and what you need after your workshop, how you're going to like decompress afterwards is also different for everybody. But yeah, it's wild.
I have two things in my like. This reminds me like the old days when I had my team. we had this crazy week when we signed, like, for, of course, it's always like that. Like, we didn't have any workshop the entire month. And then one week we had 3 gigs, 3 different gigs.
Yeah.
And there was only one person that was there because of holidays. And she was super excited about the 3 workshop. And after the first workshop, she told me, like, I don't know how I'm going to do it for
Yeah.
the 2 other ones. So she realized, like, oh, this is fun for one, but I cannot do that.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. I recently, this is like maybe off topic, but I recently had to go through my travel history for the last like 10 years. And like there were some years there where I was like, oh my God, like how did I?
How
That's
did
like
you do that?
crazy. Like yeah, like I really was like, wow, okay. That's way too much, you know? And I remember that feeling like back then being like, I'm so busy. Like my brain is just, you know what I mean? Like you just, it's not feasible to keep that going long term. Like you really have to. And I wasn't even like, I remember also people always ask me, probably similar to you, like your clients ask you about this work. And it's like, oh, it must so cool that this is what you do. And like, how does that work? How many work they're always like, so how many like workshops would you run like in a month? And I'm like maybe one? Like, are you crazy? I'm not running multiple, like depends, obviously. Like I'm not running like multiple 1 week sessions a month. Like that would be completely like just not sustainable at all for me. But anyways, it's really interesting.
Also, for the audience, I have the feeling that you're doing a lot of times more than just one day type
Yeah.
of workshop, right? You're doing a lot of,
Yeah.
like, weeks or
Yes.
correct?
Very often my workshops are multiple days. And like fortunately and unfortunately there's travel involved. So that's also like a part that is quite
Mm.
exhausting. But yeah, I would say on average my workshops are like 3 to 4 days, let's say. Um yeah. And like a
I think
4
this is
day,
also, yeah,
yeah, it's just a
this is
lot.
what makes extra heavy, I guess, on you.
Yes.
And
Let me take a drink.
and something else I wanted to say is, like, because, like, of course, when I see you, I also see the stand-up past. Like, when you're I think when you're good in your craft, you have these things like it looks easy.
Mm,
So, it's like, "Oh, it's easy to do stand-up. I can do better jokes than this guy, and I can do that." And I think it's the same in facilitation. Like, because
mm,
you're becoming good at your craft, it's easy for you to go to manage a couple of things at the same time, like the good question, the timing, the breaks, whatever is going on in the room. And so they look at you like, "Oh, it's normal what you do." And then this is like when they try it, or they try
yeah.
to do without you, this is where they realize, "Oh, crap." This
Yeah.
is way more difficult than I assumed it was. And I think it is
Yeah.
like what happened to the person you were coaching and supporting.
We so I ran a training recently where we got everybody we did like it was 2.5 days. And basically the last half of the last day or the last day, which was a half day, we got everybody to basically like take what they learned. They were all like sort of building a workshop, and then we were sort of going through facilitator kind of foundations and doing that kind of training. And then it was like, now you're going to run your workshop. And they were on teams, right? So they weren't even running a full workshop. It was like everybody sort of took a piece of the workshop,
One
and it was a
activity.
one
Mhm.
hour workshop. So it was also a short workshop. And I was sort of like, "Ah, gosh, I wonder if this is going to be like I've done something similar before, but this was a little bit of a tailored training. So it was a little bit different." And I was thinking, I wonder if like this 1 hour workshop, they're probably going to be like, okay, like what, like, this was so simple. This was so easy. It's not, you know what I mean? Like I didn't really learn much. It was, it was crazy to me like just how impactful that was of them being like learning to like designing a workshop, learning some facilitator foundations, and then like putting all that together and running the session. Just how many people were like, wow, just from running like one 15-minute activity, they've like learned so much. And they were like, oh, I do this differently. And like, yeah, Brittany was saying that. And that totally and they were like making these connections that it's like, you can't learn those things without getting the reps in, without practicing. You just don't. you can't figure out how to actually do it. You can like watch all the videos you want and like, prepare all you want, but you really just need to be in front of the people actually facilitating in order to figure out where your blind spots are and where are the things you need to work on and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is great. And also it's like the best way to learn is to reduce the amount of time between theory and practice. So what is great when
Yeah.
what you did is that everything happened in a row, then they could materialize what they've learned, and then they've
Yeah,
seen what they could have done differently. I
totally.
can still remember the first time I screw up a sprint question. Like one of my first workshop, I messed up on the sprint question. We think it's a
Mhm.
small mistake.
Oh,
Huge
man.
impact on my my
Yeah.
design sprint.
That's a tough one. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the next time I was so focused on this because I understood the importance. So the mistakes we'll make will never be as good as any learning of trainings or even
Yeah, you can
podcasts.
hear
Even
all
this
you
one.
want, how important this yeah, exactly. You can hear how important the sprint questions are or how you never miss this, never mi but once like, the mistake is what makes you learn, you know what I mean? Like, you can hear it all you want, but once you make the mistake, then you're like, "Never doing that again." Yeah.
All right, Brittany. So now if we take a step back, we understand that workshop experience is super important, a good way also to differentiate yourself. How can you create a great experience? Like, because this is a question I get a lot of time, and I think
Yeah.
it's a tricky one to answer.
It
So
can
it's
be
your turn.
tricky. Okay, I'm up, I'm up. I so when I get asked this question, here's what I usually like, what I'm usually communicating or trying to get across is that in order to build a great experience, we need to stop thinking about what we want people to do and what is this activity? How do we want what are the answers of this question that we want? Or how do we want people to properly work around this exercise? It's like stop thinking about that and focusing more on how we want people to feel at different stages of the workshop. So, because an experience, if you think about it, is really just emotion, right? Like having an experience, if you're like, wow, that was a great experience, it's because it made you laugh, it got you excited, you felt motivated, engaged. You know what I mean? There's a reason why called it an experience, and it's because it made you feel something. So, if we dial it back and we think about our workshops with that sort of tone, we can be like, okay, so at the beginning of a workshop, I want people to feel connected. I want people to feel engaged, excited to be there. Okay, so then what should be my first
Mm.
exercise if I'm thinking about it that way, right? Okay, well, I want something maybe where we get people engaging with each other and laughing. Okay, now I'm going to figure that out, right? And then it's like, okay, the next stage, I want people to feel concentrated and motivated. So, what's my activity that is going to, obviously get me to my goal, but also is going to help me bring out those emotions? Um, so, yeah, I think that shifting your focus a little bit, or at least adding in the component of considering how you want people to feel throughout your workshop is really the key to creating a great experience. And then also thinking, if we take it a step further, it's like, obviously, you can't have people feeling super engaged and motivated and like super excited the whole time, right? That's unachievable. It's too much, right? So we need to think about like, what is the sort of like the thread, and where do we want people to have moments of calm and thoughtfulness, and then where do we want people to have that moment of like surprise and delight and excitement, and figuring all of that out for your workshop is really what creates an experience. And it's not actually as hard as I think people think. It's really about creating a
Mm.
couple of key moments in a couple of key areas, that will make people remember, right, what it was like, and be excited for the next time they get to, experience your workshop.
Okay, interesting. And how do you do that? Is it like okay, this is the outcome I want to get out of my session. You design your workshop, and then do you pick activities first to get the intermediary outcome you need, or do you think about the emotion and the outcome right together? Like, yeah, what is the flow?
Yeah, so I think usually I create a little bit of like a skeleton workshop, right? Where I'm like, okay, here's where we are, here's where we need to go, here's how long, I have to get there and how in depth I need everything to be. So then I usually piece together sort of my exercises and then I look over through it and I'm like, okay, where can I amplify? Where do I need people to like get engaged? And I might make tweaks to my exercises. I might, you know, switch them for something else. But yeah, I usually do it in kind of like a two-step
Mhm.
system, let's say.
I like that. So first
Yeah,
putting the right activities to get to the outcome, and then like going back to it, seeing the emotion that you want to access, which moment, like, do I need to twist the activity? Can I change it
totally.
to
Yeah.
get there? All right.
And then also, like a part of an experience is like an energy management, right, is super important to an experience. So then it's like, then I usually also go through and I'm like, okay, where am I going to take breaks here? Where is like strategically a good spot? And then, I might add things. Okay, well, before the break, I want people to feel this. So I'm going to like sort of add that part in. Or when we come back from the break, like after lunch, I know everybody's going to be tired. So I definitely want to make sure I kind of get people's energy up in that at that moment as well. So, I'm always looking at it like, I get the bare bones structure down, and then I'm like, "Okay, and now, like, fine-tuning the experience."
Can you like? I love that. Like, can you give us an example? Like, imagine like you mentioned you were talking about the break, so that we can take an example that everyone can relate to.
Mhm,
Like, what would you do before a break or after a break? Up to you to
mhm.
bring that experience mindset towards it.
Well, let's say, so a couple of things that I would consider doing, and obviously depends on, like, where in the workshop you are and what the vibes in the room are, but if you're about to have a break and you've had some like really great breakthrough or there's been like a lot of like discussion and people are sort of like you can see that there's energy in the room around the challenge or whatever it is, then I would maybe before doing taking the break, I might like just throw out to the group a couple of key questions. So getting a little bit of feedback from the group about what stood out to them, what was something
Mm,
that they learned that was really interesting in this last little block, right? What would they, what didn't they know before, right? And just pulling those things out all of a sudden, other people are like, "Oh, yeah, right." Even if they're not responding to the question, they're like, "Yeah, that was
mm,
interesting." And yeah, I also didn't know that before, right? So then you have them in the break feeling like, "Ooh, this has been like really valuable and worth my time. I'm excited for our next block, right?" It can be something as simple as that. If you feel like everybody is, really exhausted and drained, it might be a moment where like sometimes I feel like if everyone is giving me that like, "Oh gosh, energy is low and everybody's exhausted, but we're about to take a break," instead of being like, "Let's get up and do an energizer," I might just get everybody to have like a calm, reflective moment, and be like, "I want you to just to like sit with your thoughts for a second. We just went through a lot. Write down like a couple of things and give them, something to reflect on individually, right? So it's not always about, I think some people are like, it always has to be high energy in the room and everything needs
mm.
to always be like moving forward. It's like, that's not really the case. It's like we need a flow of energy. And if things are low, sometimes it's okay to lean into that. So I might do something like that. Then coming back from the break, I just think that usually when you're coming back from the break, people are a little bit like there's a newer energy in the room, right? Like everybody's gone out, maybe they've had a snack or a drink, a bathroom, whatever. They come back and they've been chatting or whatever with everybody. So there's usually an opportunity to do something like where you can get people like engaging again with each other or like get them, doing some kind of like fun energizer where you have them up and moving around the room. Just anything like that where you're like, okay, we're back in the session. Let's get focused. And here's what I want you to focus on doing. So I think like after breaks, it's about like energizing and refocusing. Before breaks, it's kind of about like reflection and like summarizing usually.
I love that because then like the reflection will serve the rumination that will take place during the break, and then
Yeah,
you energize them because there is this weird energy like they're coming back and are a bit distracted and they need to go back into the content and
totally.
working with their colleagues.
Yeah, and I think
Awesome.
it also like, I mean, it depends what kind of sessions you're running, but, like, I also like to sometimes throw in like, if I'm running a training, which is, you know, when I'm running trainings, they're also very workshop-y. We're usually, you know, creating something or working with a challenge or whatever. But I'll sometimes do, like, a little teaser, right, before the break. So it's like, when we come back, you know, we're gonna, like, almost like it's almost like you're breaking for commercial, you know? It's like, after this commercial break, we are going to, you know, I'm going to share with you this, like, the one thing that's made like everything like, or, you know, the one game changer for blah, blah, blah. And in giving them that little thing, it's sort of like, oh, peak of the interest, you know, and then they're excited to come back to you, right? Because what you don't want and can happen sometimes is like you leave people for breaks, they start chatting, whatever, and then it's like it's painful trying to get them back into the room with you, right? I mean, it happens all the time. But, like,
Yeah,
giving
yeah.
them a little something where they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I wanna be there. I don't wanna miss," you know, that thing that Brittany said she was gonna share.
But I think even if the workshop topics is interesting for them, even if there is a great energy, I think even now more because of AI, because of these new ways of working that is like remote, like
Yeah,
it's you feel like the school teacher that needs to kill the atmosphere. Hey guys, time to come back.
totally.
So
Totally.
it's harder than
I hate
before.
that. Yeah, yeah. I do the thing too, which is, like, even more school teachery where
The
I
bell? No.
yeah, where the hands up, where it's like,
Ah,
"If
yeah,
I have
yeah,
my
yeah.
hand up, then you if you" and then everybody puts their hand up, "But if you have your hand up, you're not allowed to be talking," you know, and it's, like, so funny. But I always sort of preface that, like, when I introduce that, I'm like, "Look, I know this is juvenile, but it works, and we're gonna do it," you know? And then people are on board, and they kind of have fun with it, so whatever.
I've learned something like I was in a conference in London, and I think it's something used a lot by HR coaches. They raise their hand. I don't know if you already saw this, and then everyone raised their hand,
Yeah,
which means like, okay, now it's silence.
yeah.
Let's go back to the topic.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I
Ah,
did a
this
bad
that
job
was
of
the trick. Okay,
explaining
I
it.
was not
That's
sure. I
exactly
was
what
not
I'm talking about. Yeah. But that's
okay.
also something that, like, school teachers do, like, in kindergarten, you know?
Oh,
It's like
we
how
don't
they
have
get
the
the
same.
attention of the kids. Agile
Okay, I
coaches got it
didn't
from
know that.
somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, right. Because when you said raise handing for a school teacher, I was like, okay, am I allowed to talk?
For
Like this is what
questions.
I.
Yeah. No, no. Yeah.
Okay, okay, got it. Cool. Uh, Brittany, when you were explaining your process, I had this thinking like, so obviously as a facilitator, you see what the room needs, and of course, with your experience, you can sometimes even know better what they need more than themselves.
Mhm.
But then you also need like you also know what you need for the workshop to be a success, like in terms of energy and flow. How do you balance like what do they need and what is better for the energy and for the experience?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I mean, I think that this is, like, w really great facilitators are able to do it is this is sort of like a key to being a great facilitator, I think, right? Is managing that, like what you've planned and what you feel like the group needs or what you feel like they want, like you want them to experience. And then there's sort of like in those moments where you're like, oh, they could actually do for like another round of, you know, brainstorm or another little, maybe little discussion here or like a little reframe. So being able to manage that, I think, is really, really critical and it's difficult to do. I think for me, one of the things that I really love to build into my workshops is a little bit of flexibility when it comes to the exercises. So I'll always sort of, especially for big key exercises, things that really need to happen, I will always have an adjusted version. Like I'll be like, okay, if we have all the time that I've designed for, then we'll do like the full version and this is what that looks like. If we, you know, I need it to be a little shorter, we're a little short on time, we had to spend more time doing that other thing, then I will have like an adjusted version, adjusted time, maybe adjusted outcome even. But obviously, if it's a critical outcome, we will get there, but it's sort of like having the flexibility and the ability to pivot on your feet like that, um, is critical. And so that's one thing that I always sort of recommend is, yeah, exercises have a plan B for that exercise just in case, you know? And then I mean the age old like just plan buffer, 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 buffer. don't forget to plan buffer time. Like, my God, you know? But it's so funny because I still do that where I'm like, we probably won't need, we needed the buffer, you know? Um, anyway, yeah. So I think like that's like facilitating isn't about bringing people through this like regimented set of exercises and whatever. Facilitating really is being flexible depending on where the room's at and what the room needs. So, I mean, I think it's such a great question. And it's really hard to describe how to do that other than just being like, you need to be able to read the room. You need to be able to understand where people are at, and you have to be able to adjust. And the other thing actually that I would say is I think a lot of people are afraid of like taking a beat, you know? Like, so you're facilitating and you're like, something just happened here, or like someone's saying something that I'm like, that's really important, but we hadn't factored that in or whatever, right? And it's like all of a sudden you're in this moment, everyone's looking at you, and you have to decide what we're doing,
What do
right?
I
And
do
it's
with
like
this?
so
Yeah.
scary, you know? Like, how do I, there's nothing wrong with being like, hey, gang, like, let's take 7 minutes here because I really like this is really interesting and I want to just like rejig what we're doing, or like we're going to have to pivot a little bit and I just need a couple of moments to like organize myself or whatever, or my thoughts. Like, be honest, be upfront. Like, people really, that's what makes you a good facilitator, being able to pivot instead of just being like, I'm going to bulldoze through with my plan, even though it's, I've got new information that needs to be dealt with. So I think that's also something that you just need to be comfortable. And sometimes it's about being comfortable in the uncomfortable.
I love that. And also, sometimes you won't have the answers yourself. So I
Yes.
find like also this break is like, okay, maybe I will check with the decider.
Yeah.
We have a time issue here. It seems to be an important topic for the team.
Yeah.
What do you think we should do? And then you
Yeah.
can give him the option so that it's easier for him to decide. But at
100%.
least like, because sometimes you're lacking context, more information about the topic to be able to take that judgment. So I love
Yeah.
the way you phrased it, like taking the beat. And I think
Yeah.
this is where like facilitator in general would use the parking lot technique, like which becomes like let's put this there and like let me ask you to
The
shut up
crutch.
politely.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And then they are frustrated because like, no, this is important. You're not listening to me.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh,
the
Mehdi, totally. I was in a workshop, like, I don't know how long ago this was, but anyways, and I had to like parking lot this guy, right? And he was
parking lot,
really,
a guy, it was not an ID, it was an
yeah,
entire person.
I put him in the parking lot. Sometimes you want to do that, don't you? But no, I
Kindergarten
parking.
style. I see,
Yeah,
Brittany.
totally. You're in timeout. I wish. God, wouldn't that be great? No, but he was very like he was just like stirring the pot where it didn't need to be stirred. You know what I mean? He was coming in with, well, what about this and what about that? And we haven't considered this. And it's like it was totally out of scope. And it wasn't that it wasn't important. It was just that it wasn't important right now. You know, like that's not what we need to be thinking about in this moment. So, anyways, I parking lotted him. I didn't think much about it, honestly, because he took it relatively well. Like, I was just like, I did my classic, like, so glad you brought that up. I actually think that is super important. I'm just wondering if it's important right now for where where we're going in these next few steps. So what I'm going to do is, my classic, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to put it over here and like, let's talk about this at lunch or after the workshop, whatever. And he like came up to me afterwards. I think it was end of the day. Yeah, and he was, like, mad that I that I parking lotted him, and I've never had this happen before. This was the first time where someone was literally like, "Hey, like, you" he basically said, like, "I felt like you, um, like, kind of shut me down, and, like, you didn't listen to what I was saying and what I was trying to put out there," and he was like, just wanted to know like why you did that. And I was totally thrown. I was shocked, honestly, because I was like, oh my gosh, that was so not my intention. That's
Mm,
not what you know what I mean? I really felt so awful. And whether or not he was being reasonable or unreasonable doesn't really matter because
yeah, that's the thing.
that's how he felt. And so anyways, I like apologized and tried to explain why I did that and why I felt like I needed to do that. Anyways, and it all kind of like worked out, but he was like, I felt Like, I was like, that's exactly the thing that as a facilitator, I never, ever want anybody to feel is that they've been shut down. They're not important. Like, why? Like, they haven't been listened to, you know? Anyway, it was the parking lot. Just, it's a tricky little, it's tricky, you know? It's a good move, but it's tricky.
I made this LinkedIn post because it's something that came out into one of my training. A participant told me this, like, I find the parking lot a way of saying people to shut up politely.
Yeah,
And I think this is what the piece of wisdom that you shared, like between two sentences, it was like, come back to it during the lunch break or at the end of the day. People need closure and they need
totally.
to have their expectation being managed. So
Yeah,
just like if you put things in the parking lots, like, okay, guys, let's take 5 minutes to just, I don't know, prioritize the parking lot, define what we're going to do with those items so that they
yeah,
feel that they've been heard and that we are going to
totally.
do something about it because it was important for them.
Yeah. Yeah, when I teach the parking lot, I'm always like, "Come back to the parking like, don't you dare put things in the parking lot and then just leave it, because you will be crucified, like, people will be very upset." And yeah, I think that's what I did wrong is that I put it in the parking lot, and I think the thing was is, like, I was like, "We'll come." I think I said, like, "We'll come back to it at the, end of the session or something," and then he came up to me before the end of the session,
Mm.
and so it was just anyways, maybe it was, like, too long for him. He was offended, and, yeah, you're like, "Just be careful with the parking lot." M Messages, be careful with that parking lot.
It just remind me of the same situation. So I don't use the parking lot a lot because of all the connotations.
Yeah,
So, and a great advice I got from this LinkedIn post is to change the name because it has a lot of like annotation to the corporate word, which like in a bad meeting. So I think
yeah,
it's a nice one. But I think like I had this group and they had like all those things, and I checked with the decider. There is no way that we change what we are working right now. But I felt like the entire group was disconnected because of that. So
mhm,
even if I wanted to wait for the break, like I said, like, you know what? Let's take let's go back to the parking now.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I took like an impact effort matrix just to see like what are we going to do of those topics. Imagine we solve them perfectly, and
yeah,
it really gave them closure. And now they were mentally capable of going back to what we were supposed to do in the first place.
totally, yeah, realigning and, like, yeah, you're taking all those because that's the thing with people, like, those questions are, like, floating around, right? And what you want is them to be, like, answered so we can focus, because otherwise, like, you're right, you'll have this group that's misaligned and, like, just thinking about different things. Like, you need to have everyone aligned on what you're working on so that we can actually move forward, and, yeah, that's a great solution. Sort of just, like, yeah. I mean, if you find yourself in this situation where everybody is clearly, like,
Yeah, yeah, of
things
course.
are
Like
shifting up. Yeah.
or it always comes back to reading the room and seeing what is needed. And you
Yeah.
see this person like it was so important to him that I'm sure he was not contributing as he could have for the
Exactly.
rest of the workshop.
For
And of
sure.
course, like again, like those things like, okay, now we are aware of that and we can change this in our next workshops. Coming back to the workshop experience, like I remember like I've seen some of your posts, like you sometimes you bring a disco ball. So I think you're going big in workshop experience. And I think it's like it's part of your brand. And I'm sure this is what people also buy when they buy your services. But did you had moments when you felt like, it was a bit too much for this group? Or is there moments where it's too much and it can play against you?
So my quick answer to that is no. I've never found myself in a situation where I'm doing something and then I'm like, "Oh my god, this group is not
Sure.
this is too much, this is whatever." Maybe that's because I think it's a few different reasons why that is the case. So, first of all, I think what it's very genuine to me. It's very authentic. I'm not going in and I'm like, if I were someone who was maybe a little bit quieter, maybe I didn't have the same personality that I have, it would be very weird if you showed up with like a disco ball or whatever, you know what I mean? Or you're like making people do funny things. But that's who I am, really to the like root and core. So it feels authentic and people pick up on that, you know? And I think it's like the moment that you're doing something that's maybe a little inauthentic to you or just doesn't feel like you, that's when you get yourself into these like weird waters where people are kind of like, they're going to be like questioning it or they just aren't going to feel comfortable because you're not comfortable with it.
Mm.
Cuz honestly like I mean, yes, there are times where I don't bring the disco ball cuz I'm like, "Ah, it's not really appropriate for this scenario," you know? But when I do bring things and when I do go kind of like above and beyond, I fully commit to it because I know it's the right scenario or it's like the right group or the right challenge. And I'm like, so I fully commit to it and I do it like 100%. And I've never had someone be like, "Well, I'm not going to do that," or like, "I'm not going to," you know, because I think people are genuinely like happy to be doing something different than their everyday, you know? Like I've told this before, like the people who are usually most on board to do kind of like more wacky things or be involved in something that's very like unwork related are the ones that are like the most buttoned up, you know, the ones that are in like the suits and ties and you know what I mean? Those guys are always like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go wild, you know, because they don't get to do that very often.
Yeah,
So
they
I'm
need
a,
it.
you know, yeah, like I'm a firm believer in like commit. Obviously, you know, first make sure it's appropriate. You know what I mean? Like use your judgment to make sure that you're not, you know, doing something too insane. But you know, if it's genuine to you and this is like something that feels authentic, then I say go for it.
That's a great answer, and I think as you like you said it, and we know that you bring your true self, and this is what we like the world sees from you on the internet is it's going well because you are comfortable with what you're going to ask them to do because it's truly you.
Yeah.
And it comes back like, today, like, oh, I'm starting this journey. I've seen some YouTube video of Brittni where she talks about this. I'm going to try it. But because I'm a bit more shy or it's not my type, people are going to feel that you're not comfortable asking them to do that. And then it's going to be like this hard vibe where there is no way I'm going to do this
Yeah.
because you didn't sell it to me well.
Yeah.
So I see there is an opportunity of not truly participating to that.
And this is the other thing where it makes me think about stand-up comedy. And I think people don't know if you don't haven't done stand-up comedy or if you're not like a comedy geek, you wouldn't know this, but if you ever go to a comedy show and you're sitting in the audience and someone's up there and they're telling a joke and it's sort of like this joke that's like it's like it's something negative about themselves or about their experience or it's like something like kind of like a difficult topic and you're sitting in the audience and if you feel
Hmm.
uncomfortable and you feel like, oh, you have that feeling of like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And you almost feel like embarrassed for them, or, you know, you like, that's because they're not comfortable up there and they're not delivering it in a way that they feel confident, right? Maybe it is genuine, but maybe they're not like at a point where they can talk
That's
about this
right.
topic comfortably because they haven't worked through it internally or whatever. But it's like, if you're ever feeling like that sort of like discomfort in an audience at a comedy show, it's because likely that person just like isn't confident enough or isn't like delivering it in a way that makes you feel like you can laugh and enjoy it. You know? So it's the same with facilitation.
Yeah, I love the analogy because it's more than like than selling because you see it some comedian they will have like very dramatic stuff, but that really works
Yeah.
because they are comfortable with it, they are packaging the joke well, and the
Yeah.
others because they've seen that oh this could work even such a hard topic,
Yeah.
but then there is this awkward moment where it just
Totally.
crickets
Totally.
and
Yeah.
embarrassment.
Yeah, and I've done that before, like, I was like, "Oh, I'll do a joke about this because, like, it's real and it's real life," you know, and then I did it and it was, like, fully bombed, and afterwards, like, my comedian friends were like, "Hey, Britt, like, are you okay? Like, is that sounded pretty, and I was like, "Oh, okay, got it." Like, I was maybe I need to
So
work
fresh.
through this topic personally first before I start talking about it on a stage, you know? It was like it's just yeah, it's an interesting one.
You cannot lie the audience. That's what I think
You
I've
just
learned
can't.
on like yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go there because then I will open a new
Unleash a
door
whole other I know.
and it really reminds me of like those happy stand-up days. Um,
Yes.
do you miss it? Do you miss it, Brittany?
Yeah, I do. I do. I do, and I
It's not that you're a
don't.
mom. Like I'm sure, like you have like all those. Oh, this is comedy gold.
That's so true, actually. That is so true. I think, like, I sometimes miss it, like, when I go and watch comedy or I, like, go to my friends' shows, I'm like, "Ugh," that's when I get this, like, the bug of, like, should I just do some open mics?" But what I don't miss is, like, the it's an evening lifestyle, right? Like, you are out,
Yeah,
during the week and at night, and I like to be in bed at a reasonable time. I like to be snuggled up in bed, you know, before 10 is my scenario, you know? So, and then also just to say that I do think with the kind of work that I do and those kind of things, there's like I get that itch scratched. A little bit. It's such a
a
weird thing to
little bit.
say. Once I said it, I was like, that sounds weird. Your itch scratched. But you know, I get like I do get a bit of that,
I get
like
it.
the performance side, you know, which I love. So yeah.
You know, recently, I have this big gig. It's like 150 people, and actually, it was like emceeing. So it was the first time I was doing a bit of that. And there was famous because I'm a comedian. There is this guy like the next star in Belgium, and he's still working in this corporate, and he was in the room, and it was so hard for me because I was like, oh shit, I'm going to do those corporate jokes, and he's gonna
Yeah.
judge me like I'm not a very funny person. So it was like, yeah, it was in my head,
No.
and I'm sure
Yeah.
it influenced my game.
I
Uh,
hate that. Yeah. Those things you gotta that's a tough one. It's a
yeah,
and I
it's
think that's like I mean, then also if we bring it back to um facilitating, it's like it is really like about getting out of that. Like like the whole like imposter syndrome or being like, these people aren't gonna like this or whatever, you know, you really need to like tell yourself the right stories in order to walk into that room and deliver a workshop in the best way possible, you
mm,
know? You need to start talking to yourself positively, you know, you can do this. You were asked to be here for a specific reason. You've done it before. People, you know, just whatever helps you sort of get into that mindset of like, I'm here and I'm about to do my thing and I love doing my thing and I'm good at it. Um, it's a game changer.
yeah, definitely, and it's a great advice. It's just like here, and I don't want to go too deep. I think it's like when you do stand-ups, sometimes you prefer having approvals from your peers than from the crowd. You see what I mean? Like a joke, the only way
Yeah.
to know if a joke works is like if you get laughs, get
Yeah.
big laughs, it's working.
Yeah.
But like because you have this ego thing, it's like I want the smarter joke. I want like so anyway, and so it was
I know
getting
what
the
you mean.
approval of this guy, which was there was no way because like it's not
Because you
stand up
weren't doing the
material.
right yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's funny.
I get
Totally.
the hick stitch because it's like it feels a bit like this need that I have. Anyway,
Yeah.
this was the psychology segment of the podcast.
That's right.
Uh,
We gotta do it.
we need to wrap things up. I want to come back to a small thing because what I realized, and I feel that people think that to have a great experience in your workshop, you need to have those crazy moments, those crazy peaks where you do crazy stuff. And in my experience, I have the feeling that a good experience is a sequence of very small things. And by having a bunch of them in your session, you will get to the experience. What is your opinion on that?
So, I would agree with you. I think that you need to design moments throughout your workshop, and they don't all have to be these, like, super high, crazy moments where people are like, whoa, that was weird or whatever, or like that was different. Um, but if you think about it, everybody also, like, I think in order for your workshop to be a memorable experience for as many people as possible, you need to think about, you know, people react differently to different things. So it's like some people really love those like moments of connection where they're able to talk one-on-one with one of their colleagues about something, right? Or work together to build something. Other people love having those like fun moments of engagement where like everybody's up and like, for lack of a better example, like playing some kind of game or whatever, right? And they're like laughing and like that's their peak moment. And then other people might, really want a moment to reflect and some time to think to themselves and to come up with some, whatever, to sort of gather their thoughts about the topic, right? So everybody will have something different that they sort of connect to and that they remember in a positive way. So, how can you incorporate as many of those different kinds of moments as possible? I think that's what's going to create this real experience for everybody involved. Not to say that, like, I believe in ending a workshop with a bang, so to speak. So I think
Mhm.
definitely you have to have something, a big moment at the end. Obviously kicking off, you should also have sort of like a bigger moment where you're sort of getting everybody excited to be there. But yeah, throughout your workshop, it's just not feasible energy wise as well to have these like to keep having these like really big crazy moments. But how can you create the like unexpected moments? And those are the things that are memorable, right? So like things that people remember are things that people weren't expecting that made them
Yeah.
feel some kind of extra emotion about something. So just keeping that in mind will make your workshop stand out hugely from the rest.
I love what you just specified, like the surprise effect. Like this can definitely
Yeah.
contribute, and I think something I've learned from you because I'm a geek. I watch everything that is related to facilitation. I think you were at a conference in Faro in Portugal,
Yeah.
and you brought some special popcorn from Berlin,
Yeah.
and you asked a question. You asked a question to the crowd, and the first person that answered to you, you give them the popcorn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And I thought it was such a smart move because, like, it was surprising for the person. You were, like, congratulating the person, like, it takes courage to do it.
Yeah.
So you create a special moment, more for that person than the entire crowd,
Mhm.
and in the same time, now you're motivating others to to contribute. So I was like, you see, sometimes, like, we shouldn't have those big goals, like, "I need to create the amazing experience for everyone." If I can just impact already one person, this is already a great thing.
Yeah, it's already huge. Totally. Totally. And, like, sticking to your like, who you are genuinely and authentically, and it's like, what kind of experience can I deliver while still staying true to who I am? Because I think with, like, facilitating becoming, so popular, we all look to specific facilitators and we're like, "If only I could, do that," or, "I wanna facilitate like that," or, "I need to," and it's like, "No, no. What's your, secret sauce, and what is the thing that you bring to the table that kind of nobody else can?" And I always remind people, it's like, think about any time you have, like, presented something or even facilitated, if you have facilitated before, facilitated a session or run a meeting, and it's like, what did you get any feedback about it? What did people appreciate about it? And a lot, for me, it's like people usually are like, "Oh, I just loved your energy and loved like we had so much fun. This week was so fun and it was really energizing." And so I lean into that. I'm like, "Okay, that's what people like from me, so that's what I'm going to focus on." Not that my whole, you know, workshop needs to be those things, but it's like the general memory that I want people to have was like that was a fun week and I felt really energized.
Mhm.
But other people, it might be that they bring this like great sense of calm, or maybe they're just like really thoughtful and it's like those little thoughtful surprises, right? They bring. I mean, it could be anything, but like be who you are and bring that to the table. And that's what's going to make your workshop stand out. It's what's going to make your workshop unique, and it's what is going to make your workshop an experience versus another long meeting.
Love that. And then it's also, I guess, it's exhausting to be someone you're not.
Oh
So
my
it's
God,
going to take a
totally.
lot of effort from you to replicate, like to be, I don't know, this super energized facilitator. It's not
Yeah,
your style. It's totally okay. I had
totally.
like my best co-facilitator. She was the opposite of me. She had this
Yeah.
calm energy. She was more
Mhm,
introvert, and it
mhm.
was a great combo. And people sometimes prefer her style than mine. So there is room for everyone. And I think because we see some of the big faces being in certain way, we think that this is the only way to be great in our field. And and it's not true. So thanks
Yep,
for bringing that up.
yeah, agreed. I think, like, the thing about, like, if you're being who you are, then people are going to appreciate it, you know? Like, what people don't appreciate is if you're trying to be somebody else or, like, being inauthentic. People, it's like it radiates off of you if you're trying to be someone who you're not, right? Like, you can always tell when you meet people and you're like, "Just felt like they were putting something on, and it didn't really feel like they were being real with
Mm.
me." It's like it's the one thing that we can control, right? And the one thing that I think has the most impact in people, how people perceive you and perceive your session.
And in the tips you shared is like sometimes it's hard to see from yourself what is really makes you different. So
Mhm.
the fact that you said like ask feedback and get it from the audience, and then you, after hearing it a couple of times, then you know that you can double down on this because this is what people perceive from your style.
Yeah,
So it's an
exactly.
easy way to make it for you. All right, Brittany, there is like this is now the segment where you're going to share one of your signature activity. So Brittany accepted to share one activity in the workshop deck library. So I'm going to share the activity with you guys. So it's called. How is it called, Brittany?
Plot twist. Drum roll, please.
Whoa! I can see the ad again, like from
Yeah.
like in your workshop.
Oh my God, so funny.
Okay, awesome. Can you tell us like how it works
Yeah,
and
so
what is it about? Yeah.
So this is an exercise that you're going to do with a group at the beginning of your workshop, okay? And it's really an exercise that's great for a group that already know each other, or like are working together. I mean, strangers could also do this, right? It could work as well, but it's kind of extra nice when it's a group that already know each other, because basically what you're getting them to do is to share a story, one of their own stories, with a partner. It's like such a simple exercise. um, what you're getting them to do is think about a time in their lives when something happened that really changed the course of like their life or their career or whatever. And it can be something so simple, right? Like often I think people, when you first tell them about this activity, they can be like, oh gosh, like I got to think about like the biggest change that ever happened in my life. And it's like, it can literally be like an opportunity you got, a move you made, someone that you met who's now your mentor, like whatever, right? But basically, the idea is that you give them a few minutes to think about like a plot twist that happened in their lives, and then they share in pairs about this plot twist. And what this does is, the thing is with like icebreakers and stuff, we can often like get a bit lost in those and they become very like impersonal. And this sort of like brings it back to the basics. It's like, let's just share a story from ourselves. But if you tell people to share a story, that's too intimidating, right? So give them this specific exercise where it's like, think about a time where something happened and it changed your course, right? It was a plot twist. You weren't expecting it. It was a surprise, and share that. And often it can just be this really great moment of connection when these two people are sharing this plot twist, because it's usually something surprising that you didn't know about the person if you knew them
Hmm.
before. It's very interesting because it usually tells you a lot about the person and a lot about like where they are today and why. And it's so simple. It like takes 15 minutes. It's a nice quick activity. Usually I bring people back after this exercise into the group together and I'm like, what did we learn? Was there anything interesting? And usually a few hands will go up and be like, I didn't know that Dave met his wife while he was in high school or whatever. Um, there's always like some fun stories that come out. And with my workshops, with a lot of them anyways, I want to like break down walls at the beginning. I want people to feel comfortable. I want to remind everybody that everybody in this room is human, doesn't matter what, you know, role they have or the hierarchy in the room. Let's just all be reminded that we're here together, we're here for the same purpose, and we all have cool stories to tell, no matter, you know, what level or what your salary is.
Okay, this is awesome, Brittany. And what I also enjoy is like when you give me the instructions to for the cards, like you also insisted on bringing this tip that it doesn't have to be a crazy story because you know it's always the risk with those icebreakers that you put the expectations high. It's like, oh, my
Totally.
story is not exciting enough to be shared, so
Yes.
it's going to be tough for me to put it out there. And I think having like hearing the facilitator saying like it can be a small things, it can be a small thing at job, and maybe if you have an
Yeah.
example to illustrate that the small things is totally okay, then you will create this space of like, oh, it's easier to contribute and to share with my colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be often these like plot twists are really small things. You know, you met this person and then they introduced you to someone that got you this job or this opportunity or whatever. Like, you know, who knows what it could be, but the it's really not what the story is. It's like what the story means to that person, right? And like where they are now versus where they were before the transition. So, yeah, it can be something so small and I think you're like, yeah, I try to be very I think there's always so much pressure in these situations. So the more that as a facilitator you can be like, don't freak out about it. Let's all, you know what I mean? Let's take a step back. And you're right, sharing an example with your group is going to be a way to sort of like alleviate any of that pressure that people are feeling.
And if I can give a tip, especially because as facilitator, we are prepared for those activities, right? Like we know
Yeah,
them, we've run it a couple of times. We have the perfect examples because we had the time to perfectionize
prepare.
our example.
Yeah.
And like in my way, like when I'm doing one, it's almost like a stand-up gigs because I know the jokes that works. But then
Yeah.
it's become intimidating for them to come up with story. So I stopped doing that. I'm giving more example that are more simple so that I don't create
Mm,
this high expectations, even though I had really good jokes.
totally. Even though we're hilarious and should be famous stand-up comedians, obviously.
This is why we're doing this work, right? It's
That's
not
right.
because we're
I had so many offers, Mehdi. I had people knocking on my door, and I was like, "Nope, workshops."
next week special. No, no, no.
No,
Please send me to Google.
not today. Yeah, exactly. That's
Okay,
funny.
Brittany. One last thing that I want to share, and I think it's great about this activity, is that sometimes most of the icebreakers activities we have are for groups that don't know each other. But
Yes.
when you have a team that has been working together for a long time, it's hard. Which one am I going to use? Like I see it like I have a client like I'm workshopping with them like every 3 months. Like even my own library is
Uh,
going down. So
totally.
having activities like the plot twists, like for teams that already know each other very well, I think this is great because then it gives them an opportunity to go deeper than the classical
Exactly.
surface level story and connection activities.
Yeah.
So this is why I really love the activities that you proposed.
Thanks. Thanks, Mehdi. I'm glad.
All right, Brittany. So last question, like where can people find you and do you have something exciting to promote at the moment?
LinkedIn. Just kidding. Just because we were that's an inside joke because we were talking about how we love LinkedIn so much. Love being in parentheses.
I
But
don't know why
anyways,
she's doing that. I really love LinkedIn.
yeah,
Please
we love it.
keep
We love it so
supporting me.
much. Yeah. So I am actually on LinkedIn, so you can definitely find me there. I'm posting regularly. That's where you can like hit, hit me up in my inbox or whatever. Send me a message. But right now I'm actually for the first time in a long time offering some one-on-one coaching. So I am it's not something that I've done a ton of in the past because it is quite intense doing like one on one coaching sessions. But I love it. And I feel like I have the energy for that right now. Plus, it's also something that, you know, for me, keeps my feet on the ground, as in not flying around places. Since I have such a young little nugget at home, my baby is just turning 1 year old in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm really excited about it because I think it's a great opportunity for me to, I just love working with other people who are doing this work, and who are as excited about workshops and facilitation as I am. So I'm working with people. I'm sort of selling a package of 3 sessions. Um, and we are basically going through, like, I'm tailor making the sessions based on what people are looking for and what kind of guidance. So it can be anything from building a workshop business to like planning and executing a workshop that you have coming up to, oh, I want to like create a signature workshop for myself, a signature session. Like, how can we do that? I can be a sparring partner, like basically anything. If you think that my experience is relevant and could be helpful, then I'm yours for the taking. That sounded weird. I am available for coaching. That's what I wanted to say. So yeah, that's the new thing that I'm offering that I'm really excited about. So I thought I would throw that out there.
That's cool. And you see what I've done? I put it in the intro saying that you're doing that.
I
And
saw that.
Brittany, so if people want to take the coaching with you, like do they send you a message on LinkedIn or is there a
Totally.
specific?
Easily,
Okay.
or my email, which we can also put in the description. So Brittany@hibrittany.com. Just send me a message and we'll chat. We'll have a little bit of an onboarding because I wouldn't be a workshop person if I didn't have a very specific system and process. So we have some onboarding. Well, I'll learn about, your goals, what you're hoping to achieve, where you're at, where you want to go. Also learn a little bit about like how you like to be coached, so your preferences and all that kind of stuff. So making sure that we're like a good fit and we can sort of sidestep those like like kinks that we're working out, and just jump right into the good stuff on day one. So yeah, just send me a message.
Wow. So sounds like the perfect opportunity, guys. So like if you need that, then I can only recommend Brittany. Please send her a message. Brittany, it was a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure was all
Uh,
mine.
it was cool to have fun. I'm not gonna cry about stand up. I'm not gonna try to send a message to any open mic places in Brussels. I will resist the urge. But
Yeah.
it was nice chatting with you, and we see you guys very soon. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.